Hey guys, so today I'm going to ramble about internet gaming addiction because I wholeheartedly feel like I've experienced some of the worst signs and symptoms associated with it during my life. And I'm not just talking about every once in a while checking Social Blade to see my YouTube statistics as compared to other channels over the years. I've been there, but it's bigger than that for me. I would consider myself recovered as of 2010 from MMORPG addiction. Uh, but cell phone gaming has crept up into my life in the past 5 years, and I'm currently working towards slaying that demon too. Um, I began gaming uh, with the Nintendo Entertainment System around 1986 or so. I mean, I was playing video games in arcades before that, but the first gaming system that we had in my house was that. And we also had an IBM 8088 that my father bought me for homework that also could play games on floppy disks. Um, Technology grew, consoles evolved, and by the time I was getting ready to graduate high school, I found myself in a group of friends who were very knowledgeable about computers and the internet, and they played MUD games. That's multiple user dimension games. The easiest way to describe a MUD game is that it was like the predecessor of MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, but it predated the graphic user interfaces, the pictures. So it was basically like the text in the Matrix just scrolling past your eyes, and if you could read fast enough, you could play. It was all text based, and the green lines would just fly by my face as I learned to type at unholy speeds. I even used a typing counter to measure my words per minute. Now, some of those words were not even words. They were, just whatever was between the spaces. But some of the scores we would get on those typing counters were just out of this world, you know. My brother typed faster than me. Even with regular typing tests, he was up at like 120 words a minute. Um, I'd say that I can belt out a 5 page report for school in probably an hour and have it be a really good one. Um, that's where my typing speed is. My brother, though, if he was typing chat to you and you could see the chat as he was typing it, um, when he deletes and when he backspaces, he just like hits the shift key and pushes the up arrow and deletes a whole line and then retypes the whole thing because it's faster for him to do that than to try to backspace to the point where he made the mistake. So that's how fast he is. And he's a network engineer. Um, but that was like my childhood with it. After I joined the Army, I kept in touch with my friends from my hometown in my free time, no matter which duty station I would go to. And I moved all around the world. I was in uh, Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. I was in Fort Lewis, Washington. I was in uh, Camp Humphreys, Korea, and all those places. I kept in touch with my friends using the computer. And I chatted with them over the internet. It was a lot cheaper than phone calls. And my first encounter with a friend that I realized definitely had a problem with his gaming addiction was my friend Scott. And this was in 1997. I was the best man at Scott's wedding, mostly just because I had very appropriate attire for formal get togethers, and his other friends had a lot of leather and spikes, and his wife's mom kind of lined us up accordingly. And yeah, Scott's marriage was a weird one, but the reason why he was divorced by his wife was that he was playing the mud games so much, and he would have, you know, certain times where he would arrange things, just like the raids in World of Warcraft nowadays, only he would arrange certain times that they would all get together from all around the world. And when his wife didn't understand that it took a lot of planning to make one of those things happen, she figured that it's like a game that you could just pause. She was kind of upset when she called him to bed for sex, and he didn't come. Like, he didn't go to bed. He stayed at the computer, just playing the game, and angry that she was interrupting his game time. Meanwhile, I was still staying up till like 2 a.m. In internet cafes in Angenry, which is right outside of Camp Humphreys. My favorite one was called Mouse Hunt. And it's right outside of Pyeongtaek, South Korea. And every Friday and Saturday night, I was like only heading home because like the gate guards would close the gate after a certain point. Like that's what kept me going home, was like the curfew. If you didn't make the curfew, you basically have to spend the entire night out on the streets. They weren't going to let you on base. So, yeah. That was how addicted I was. I was staying out that long. 20 years later, the technology in those rich kid neighborhoods has probably gotten a little bit more advanced. You know, it's not like you have to go to an internet cafe to find the internet anymore. People have cell phones and can check their email that way. But still, I think that you could probably see the effects on that neighborhood that like technology had. I can remember seeing firsthand the kids that were in some of those cafes being kind of low key drugged with coffee in order to keep mining all the really insignificant things in online games so that they could sell them on online markets to Americans, because those kids just picking up like rocks and leaves and sticks in the games that would repopulate after a while, just walking around and picking those up, those kids were making more money than their parents who were farmers. And the rice paddies out there are like almost subsistence living back then. So yeah, that was a weird dynamic that I was seeing happen. The gold farmers of South Korea. Anyways, years later, I remember in 2007, I was working for GE, and I was feeling like I could be at work, but I didn't want to be there unless I had both my computers at home running scripts that would play parts of the video game that I was playing, World of Warcraft, and EverQuest and EverQuest 2. Um, I just, if I had the chance, I would, duck out on a bathroom break and go home to set my computers to this script that I called Set It and Forget It after a commercial. And basically, my characters were the best crafters on the servers because I would buy up all the crafting materials and just set my characters to do, the same menial tasks over and over again. They'd level up. I'd come home and, uh, it was like I was playing while I wasn't there and while I was there. So, that was me. I would use my lunch break sometimes to check to see if like one of my characters ran out of materials or something, and reset them. Um, the uneasiness that I felt when my characters in the games were doing nothing while I was at work or while I was asleep, it told me that I had a problem. You know, to the feeling of my character in the game doing nothing while I was doing something else, just it irked me so much that I was like, this is addiction. Um, my friend Dan worked on a game called Eve Online, and basically any amount of time in between you training these skills um, was just lost time. And so if you were going to have all the skills by the end of the game, it would take you like 30 years of like real time. But basically, if you missed that time that you were supposed to flip over your skills, you would probably be very upset because all the time in between when the training of the last one was over and the new training starts, you just lose that because real time translated into the game. They intentionally made the game hard that way. And finally, in about 2010, I went cold turkey because of a fight over the internet with Dan that it was basically embarrassing because he was drunk and he was fighting with all the other members of our guild. And in that time, I found other hobbies like YouTube, and I found them more rewarding because, YouTube, you can still get comments on a video from 10 years ago. And that boss that you slayed 10 years ago, the armor from it is not worth anything today. There's been another expansion. They've wiped out the value of that accomplishment. You don't relive it again. So YouTube, because it kept on giving rewards of comments, it was a better hobby for me, and I got into videography and whatnot. And it doesn't make you turn down real life engagements like, hey, you want to go bowling? Or, hey, you want to come over for a family dinner? You don't have a schedule of when you're going to kill some fake monster, that day. And that had been afflicting me for about 10 years. That I was turning down real life for a video game. I haven't owned any consoles since, and looking back, I actually kind of regret losing about 10 years of my life. I would define internet gaming addiction by like craving, playing the game for abnormal periods of time, really long periods of time, playing longer than you intend, ignoring responsibilities in your life, isolating, not enjoying real world things that much, sleep disruption, um, supplanting your true human connections with gaming friends. Those were the things that I experienced. But there's also a sort of a failure to launch, where this is like a social phenomenon where you see an adolescent mid 30s person, like somebody who's a teenage 30-year-old, and they just look less full of life and responsibilities as compared to people in their peer group. Um, that's definitely something that I felt. But it's a strange part of the addiction. That's why I regret those 10 years. Um, my overall opinion of the validity of internet gaming addiction uh, is that it's a very real thing. It should have been in the DSM 5, and hopefully it's in the DSM 6 whenever that comes out. Um, in my current job as a DUI therapist, I've had to uh, kick people out of my telehealth groups because they were trying to be a part of the group and play a video game at the same time. And I would catch people with their controller in view of the camera. So it's serious. Like, some people cannot sit down and do something without thinking, hey, wait, is this an opportunity for me to also play? Uh, yeah. It's it's pervasive. It's everywhere. And hopefully some treatments come out that will help people before they lose 10 years of their life like I did.